Welcome back to the Acoustic Shop channel. I am John here with Jeremy. This is your official source for all things acoustic. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit unique. We're going to be talking about McPherson guitars versus standard Dreadnoughts. Has McPherson engineered a better Dreadnought? We're going to find all that out just shortly, right after this. Down along the stairs, I can see the pictures that we made down.
For the uninitiated, let's do a little bit of the history of the McPherson guitar, our involvement with McPherson guitar, and then we'll get into some of what makes them different.
Yeah, I think this is a very cool brand that a lot of people are not all that up to speed about what is happening. And you'll see these guitars actually quite a bit in some of your all-time favorite acoustic players, electric players, you name it, session players, they're all playing these. And a lot of people don't even know what they are, mainly because they're not cheap guitars. I don't know if you know that, Jared. Did you know that?
They're not inexpensive guitars either.
Yeah, or cheap, either one.
Anyway, I think we first came across them, at least I did, at the NAMM show the first year we attended. There's such a great array of beautiful acoustic guitars, but then there was this one booth that they had these guitars on display, and they displayed them as if they were pieces of art for good reason. They had a few of their like very limited edition, crazy exhibits of what they can do with woodworking.
Which
and they
is
would have
nuts.
On the back of them, they would have a complete fall leaves falling off a tree, or like the Picasso
City
guitar,
landscapes
and city landscapes.
Yeah.
And they would do these outlandish thing. Some what do you call it when you take the
Scrimshaw
stuff on the headstock? Just incredible stuff. It's like, my God, these are like pieces of art. We never really got a chance to play them because I'd be afraid to even touch them. The ones I had on the display there. They also had some carbon fiber guitars, and that's kind of how we got our foot in the door. Was with those carbon fiber guitars.
You saw them at the NAMM show. You want to know where I first saw them? We were actually in an airport, and they actually had a display of these guitars. Believe it or not, that's a really crazy thing to say. But they come from Wisconsin, and the guy who is most responsible is a fellow by the name of Matt McPherson. And some of you will recognize him. Yeah, some of you guys will recognize him for another thing that he did with his Matthews archery. Matthews Archery is considered some of the finest bows and archery equipment in the entire world. And his big claim to fame was, again, engineering a better compound bow. That said, he's also a big musician and a big fan of music and wanted to take some of those ideas, not necessarily those ideas, but some of his engineering ideas to build a better style guitar. One of the things that they do inside the necks of these guitars is actually have a big giant brass pin. It's a heavy weighted, it's not really a pin, I guess it's just a weight that's in this neck block down here, and it's part of what bolts the two systems together. Again, that brass weight is now moving that energy through the headstock to the neck. They put a full carbon shape into this neck. Most of this neck shape is actually of a carbon rod to give it big stability, but they are adding mass to that top. They also believe in more surface area for a soundboard, thinking more in the piano world, where you have that. That's the reason this, the sound hole has been pulled to the side. Now you have nothing interfering in the center of that soundboard like you do on that.
A massive piece of uninterrupted wood, including with the neck right there, with the way the neck attaches.
The cantilevered neck joint, you have that gap underneath where that is actually usable soundboard that is actually creating vibration and the tone properties that they're looking for out of this.
And they did a lot of research trying to get the resonance to not just stay in the center of the guitar, but go all the way to the sides, travel along the side of it, down the back, and kind of create this almost like harmony between the back and the top. And they did that with the way they do when the braces cross each other, they do what they call an overpass, underpass, where they actually don't touch each other. They kind of have a gap in between those. So again, that lets those things vibrate, still giving it the structure and strength that you want out of it, but not having that resistance right there in the middle where that X-brace crosses.
Sure.
So just a lot of really cool engineering.
Crazy stuff that goes even further than that. They use a lot of carbon fiber, not just in their necks, but also in their bracing. Again, make a lighter brace, make it more open. You'll see open areas in the bracing so that it has, strength, but also not just a bunch of resistance, exactly, which is really kind of interesting. And not only that, but also working on controlling airflow inside the guitar. There's shape difference, taper in the body where it gets more narrow into here and kind of moves. There's so much science being put into these guitars, and I think that's what's so interesting about McPherson in general and it's come out with a sound that is totally unique. And that's what we're trying to do today, is kind of compare. This is what they would consider a Dreadnought guitar, and this is, compared to one that we love, which is the Boucher BG-42-GM. And we're going to kind of talk about, what are the main differences and why they sound different.
Yeah, with all the engineering, what is the result? What is the change in it? I think right off the top of the bat, just sustain. Like you were talking about, like the piano, the Steinway sort of piano thing, where you'll strum a chord on that thing, and it will sustain forever. And I think it's just that lack of resistance anywhere. Maybe the brass in there just helps continue that. But there's nothing like a McPherson when you strum that.
I don't know what they've done with this, but we were just doing that recording just now, and I'm starting to see why it is that so many session players are in love with this. This created a layer of rhythm that I have never had in any guitar that I've ever done, but it's a totally different feel and sound that I've ever looked for. I've always done something like a standard Dreadnought, which has some definite defined notes, some sustain that's controlled a little bit more so, where this just sings all over. And the flow of those notes that move in and out of each other, I'm pretty impressed. I played these guitars before. I've never tried to do it in a musical type of situation other than just playing for myself. And I find that this is going to be a guitar that I would want to have in a recording session, just for another layer above anything else.
I don't see it maybe competing as well as a standard Dreadnought in a full band, like fast bluegrass rhythm, where you're just doing that fast rhythm. It may not be as forthright as a standard Dreadnought guitar, but I hear when I listen to that, like Alison Krauss and just that beautiful open guitar strumming stuff behind her, I could hear one of these guitars just filling that entire stage.
I think that's the difference. It fills more area, and there's a deliberate need for a guitar like that doesn't do that. There needs to be some defined time sense of individual notes and spacing to kind of articulate certain areas of the musical spectrum.
Have you really tried to do some more flat picking, like fast stuff? For comparison.
This is going to be interesting, because also the strange thing about this is what you get as the player is also so different on this. There's definitely more individuality to each individual note compared to that, where they just kind of ring into each other. So if I was playing more slow to medium stuff, I definitely think I would like that better.
This definitely filled that space a little bit more broadly. Kind of thought this one wouldn't hold up as well to the flat picking, but I actually kind of like the tone it provided. Again, if you're on a full stage with a lot of people, you might have some issues with that, but this had a very cool sound. Like if I was a contest player, that would be a very interesting sounding guitar, I think, to have in a contest.
Where I think it's really going to pay off would be something in that wide open. That's really interesting, and to me, I would love that in a layered
It's a
project.
softer sort of feel, like it almost takes some of the edges off, and a lot of the effects that you would get in a studio, if they recorded this guitar, they'd be doing some stuff with it, adding some extra reverb and stuff to get
fill
a lot of
that
that
space,
where that's almost creating it on its own.
I'm going to do some basic. I'm not a great finger picker, but if I was just doing some patterns. Boy, my patterns are really bad, you can tell.
I can't really say that one is better than the other. They're just so different. Like I like the warmth and the softness of this. That one just has a clarity to it. There's different appealing attributes to both of them.
Definitely a different layer, and that's what I'm finding, you know, with this little bit that we've been recording here today, is that there's an appeal to a different sound. Boy, if I was working two different guitars, this is what I'd want to be that second sound. You know, there's the dominant thing that, you know, that I would normally have, but something to go along with it. I think something like the McPherson sound's definitely there. So what we should probably do is kind of tell you a little bit more about the McPherson guitar.
You want to hold this while you talk about it?
Yes, we can do that. I guess it doesn't matter, but I can kind of to talk about it a little bit. This is a MG4.5. That is their depth. It's a 4.5-inch depth on this guitar. Their jumbo dread style. This one has a price of $11,549.99. Tone woods on this is going to be a Sitka spruce top with a flamed Honduran mahogany. As we said before, it is gorgeous. I've never seen a piece of mahogany look like this ever before. It does have an African mahogany neck with an ebony head plate, and the body binding on this is all maple. The fingerboard on this is an ebony fretboard. Truss rod is a unidirectional high mod carbon non-adjustable neck. So this has a big giant carbon rod. It should never move. It can't move. It's solid carbon. So that should make for a very, very stable guitar. Bow nut and saddle. This does have the gold Goto 510 sealed tuners on it, as well as the bracing is based on rosewood, spruce, and rosewood on this particular one. So they're layered, sandwiched inside there. Body and soundboard finish is, of course, a gloss finish with a gloss neck. Does come with a gorgeous case. All the McPhersons do from Ameritage. They're a little bit heavy, but they are well built. Neck profile is kind of a modern V. There is definitely a center point to this, but it's a very comfortable, easy to play neck shape at 1.75 inches in the nut width. Does come standard with an LR Baggs EAS with volume control. Very nice pickup as well. Custom on this one, as you know, we talked about this, the cantilevered neck. That's a McPherson always needed.
That means that this the tongue of the fretboard and the end of the neck extension do not touch the top of the guitar at all. They just kind of float above there.
Comes with the gold Evo fret wire. Like I said, that carbon rod that is not adjustable, which is kind of a little bit interesting too. And again, this that spruce rosewood spruce bracing. That's something I've not seen.
Again, they just experiment with what helps to transfer the vibration the best way across the entire top.
Mm-hmm. So much engineering and thought is done to this, and we haven't even talked about the workmanship.
Yeah.
McPherson guitars are next to none as far as the detail of stuff. I've always talked about like the miter joints of some of these bindings where you just can't even see a line where they cut it. It is so finely produced and clean that you just don't see any mistakes in the carbon, the McPherson wood guitars. They are just in a league all of their own.
And wood selection on every one of them, and they've talked about this, they let their luthiers just go through the pile and pick what they think is going to be the best combination, both in appearance and tone, and they come up with some of the finest looking pieces of wood that you'll see on any guitar. And it's just that attention to detail. We didn't even talk about one of the cool things Matt did that is one of those little things that just show his dedication to perfection. Two things. One is every single brace on the inside of the guitar has to be completely sanded. If there's any roughness on the inside of the guitar, and this is places you're never going to look, he goes through sometimes and spot checks the guitar builds. And if they see any spot where there's a little feathering on the wood that hasn't been sanded off, he makes them go in there with a fine sander or sandpaper on their finger and really clean that up. And he did another really cool thing underneath the bridge plate under there. He actually put an inlay of Matt McPherson, his signature, but he did it reversed so that if you ever put a mirror in there, it's actually the right side, facing the right side or reading the right direction, which is, again, one of those things that probably 90% of the people that own the guitar don't know that's in there, but one of his little attention to detail and just wanting things to be as perfect and above the standard as possible.
Absolutely. Based on tone, we're going to give our 1 through 5 what we find this to be. And in tone,
we're going to put this in like range. So this is going to be the upper level of boutique guitar builds right now. So again, at the price tag that it's at, there's not a lot on the market that's in that price range.
There's a few things, but yes, this is definitely an upper end guitar.
So in that world, Tone, where would you rate it?
This is an interesting one for me because it's not the stuff, some of the stuff that I would normally like base it off of, but yet I also realize now what it's capable of doing. So I'm gonna go a little bit lower than I probably ought to. I'm gonna put this at a 4.5, and only because it's just not ideally what I would look for in every single guitar. That said, man, there's some really amazing things that are going on in here.
I'm gonna diverge from you a bit here. For what its set goal was, which is not to be a Dreadnought, what they have done with this guitar, with the engineering in it, I give it a 5 because it is just, it has so much to it. It is so articulate where it needs to be, but it also just, all the notes really work together. There's nothing that really stands out. So it again just feels like playing a piano where all of it, you got your foot down on the pedal and it's just all those notes going in. I'm very impressed with it, so I'm going to give it a 5.
That's awesome. Playability and setup. This is probably the spot where these guitars are perfect. They do so many things in here as far as they run it on the Plek machine. They square everything to be perfect with that carbon rod. They don't need to worry about things moving on it. It is just there. They set every one of these guitars up with medium strings, and nobody that has ever played them is able to recognize that they're mediums. They play so easily.
Do they intonate the nut and saddle the way they do on the carbon fiber ones?
Not the nut, I don't believe anymore. It's just mainly just in the saddle, but yes, it is perfectly intonated at the saddle with the wider saddle blank. They do come with 2 saddles that are built for them, usually a low and a medium setup. So if it is too low for you, you can probably raise it up. I think they usually ship with the lows.
Again, they use the Plek machine for the setup on that, so they actually mark down your serial number. And if you ever need to reorder a saddle, they have it on record and can cut one for you.
There you go. So I think the playability is amazing. There is nothing about this in the entire guitar that makes me think that this is poorly set up. It's easy to play. I'm going to give it an absolute 5.
I would agree on that too, yeah. The engineering definitely works for setup.
Yep. Now we come to the build quality. Again, this is nobody builds. The woods are incredible. The finishes are impeccable. I have never seen a flaw that is visual for me on any of the guitars that I've ever seen from McPherson. And so there is no way I can give this anything lower than a 5. If you had more, I'd probably give them that. These are just impeccable.
Yes, and that, again, that's inside and out, where you can't even find a problem on the inside of the guitar where you'll never look. So 5 as well. This
is a weird one because the looks, the aesthetics, this either sets some people off or gets them excited.
This is where your biases show up.
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen this way too many times. We've talked about this with the headstocks of certain guitars. I'm not as stuck on this as a lot of people think I am.
Or as you used to be.
Probably than I used to be.
Evolved a
You're
bit.
probably right to that degree. The guitar world, or any instrument world, really is so stuck in tradition that it's hard to go off of that. And I know I get people that come in all the time, look at these, they're in love with the whole woods and everything about them, but that sound hole, or something there that just kind of, it's one of those things that you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. So based on the design, it's going to be, hard for me to give it a huge rating. I personally am a big fan, but I know that a lot of people have so much issue with the design of this. Now, aesthetics, as far as the wood choices and the stuff in there, this is a hard call for me to give it a good rating. So I don't know what you're going to do. I kind of find this to be, in realistic world, we kind of have to lean more on a 4, I guess, just because I know what people are going to kind of go off of. I myself, I'm starting to really warm up to this pretty strong.
I'm going to go a little higher than that. I do understand what you're saying about some people just, the engineering that makes it different is what throws them off. It looks different, the body shape is different, the thickness of it's different. But they did those things for a reason, not just for aesthetics. They did it for the overall function of the guitar, and they did it in a very attractive way. Even the way they shaped the sound hole, I think, is a very attractive thing. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 just because it's not the traditional look, but it is one of the finest looking instruments you're going to come across.
There you go. As far as our Shoppe sustainable effort, again, we don't know all the sourcing of these particular
I'm
woods.
interested to find that out. I imagine they are being pretty conscious, but let's look into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for now, we'll always err on the side of caution and plant 5 trees, which, hey, there's no harm in doing that.
Nope, absolutely no harm in that. Overall value. Again, this one's a hard one. We got so much going on here, but man, again, after listening to that, what it did with rhythm strums.
We've been getting beat up lately with the mandolin world and some of these guitars where people are just going crazy about the cost of things. I understand that. I don't know why guitars and mandolins kind of get a different, maybe we'll make a video about this, why they get different treatment than a bass boat or a Harley Davidson where you're going to leave it in your garage most of the year. It costs $80,000 plus maintenance, or if you got a boat, you're storing it all year long and paying dock fees and all that. So let's put it into perspective here. This is a work of art instrument that'll probably be in your home for the next 30 years. If you decide to sell it, you'll get 80% at least of what you paid for it. So it's not so out of line to say that.
There's something
pricey.
there's something magical here. It is pricey. I've seen things that are, but I also see things in this $12,000 that don't stack up to the quality and the uniqueness of what's going on here. So honestly, I'm actually going to go deep into this one. I'm going to say overall value. This is a full 5 for me. I think there's something here that can only be achieved by McPherson. There's nobody else that I know that will be able to do what is being done right here.
And I would say from people that we know have bought them, the customer service when they deal directly with McPherson, just with questions, or if they want a new saddle, or if they want a custom build, has been, they treat you with white glove treatment as well.
As they should.
As they should. I'm going to give it a 4.7.
5.
Just because I've been giving 5s all along, but value for what they put into it and what you're getting out of this guitar, I definitely think it's worth it. I know people are go ahead and flame away, folks. All of your interactions down there.
You're not bothering me.
It helps this video get to more people where they can also disagree. But put it in perspective. If I was and maybe we skipped over that. Who's this guitar for? I find a lot of it being some pretty wealthy guys that want the finest guitar out there. It's those guys that have I don't know, BMWs and Lexus cars. They want the finest. They have it in their guitar room. It is an incredible instrument to have in your guitar room. It's also the professional musician. Again, we're talking about Tool here. If you're in the studio all the time, if you're the backup band for one of these #1 country artists, it's totally worth that investment. Is this for the guy that's just wanting to take it to his local jam session? Probably
no, absolutely not. I until today did not really fully appreciate who this is for. And today really helped me to understand this is for a musician who needs something bigger, something different, something more unique than what they're going to find from any of the other guitar manufacturers. This really did take up a space and surprised me today of what, I mean, like I said, I've played these guitars before, not in the position that what we had today, and this really opened my eyes to what is possible with a McPherson guitar. So
there you have it.
Yep. So now we're going to give you a few tone samples of both of these guitars so you can kind of hear the main differences of a Dreadnought, standard Dreadnought, as well as McPherson in like similar tone woods. hope you enjoyed that. McPherson guitars are very, very unique. Another thing that's kind of really popular in the McPherson line have been the carbon guitars. We have both been carrying the travel guitars as well as the sables. They're the touring, sorry, as well as the sables.
Matt took some of his experience with the carbon fiber world in Bose, and took some of that knowledge and experience, and then built, I think, one of the finest carbon fiber guitars ever built, in my opinion.
Yep.
And we made a video about that,
Yeah,
didn't we?
we did. We made quite a few different ones, but this one's one I think you might get a kick out of. Talking all about the Carbon series from McPherson, and you can check that out by just pushing this little button right here. And again, until next time, thank y'all for hanging out with us. I know we got long-winded on this one, but I thought it was pretty interesting. McPherson guitars. It is a different Dreadnought.
Better, maybe?
Maybe.